So now that that's done, we can layer it. So the first thing is to section off the layers in the right area. So I'm going to isolate the front. I'm going to get rid of that. So from the crown down to the right behind the ear, the mastoid, I'm going to do that on both sides. And that gets rid of the front area. So quickly got rid of that, and now we can start to layer. So I'm going to start in the center back. A layered bob is a triangular shape. That means it gets longer and heavier towards the front within the inside. Obviously, I've put the outline in here so that stays as is. Or it doesn't if I layer it in the wrong place. So that's the key thing here, is to layer from the right location so that you don't lose this front area. What tends to happen with these haircuts is we have this nice bob line all the way through. We layer the back, it looks great. But then we come into the front and all of a sudden this length jumps up and it becomes very transparent. So it goes from looking like very Kardashian to very Golden Girls like that, you know what I mean? So you've got to be careful with this situation. So again, it's all about knowing. So let me just set up the section first down the center and I can explain exactly what needs to happen. Right, let's bring her down a bit. So I take my vertical section. Now, in this section that I've got here, there's many different places. Let's do this, let's get that out of the way. That I could use. See that shortest hair right there, that's my outline. So I could technically use that and maintain this length. But you see what happens, guys, it will be okay for about an inch. Then the hairline comes up and over and around the ear. So that's where it starts to change. So I need to find a place in here where I know that I'm not going to lose the front. It's really simple. Look, this is the weakest point of the front. That's the hairline. If I work back, all the way back, everybody has this common symmetry. That's the occipital ridge. So I know that if I get a guide lower than the occipital, I risk losing the front. If I use the occipital, I know that the length of the occipital is the same length at the hairline in the front, so I'm going to maintain. Because guys, if this hair gets cut, it's game over. I've made a mistake. I've already established my outline, so this hair right here should not go any shorter. So I now know that to use my occipital or higher. Now, if I do get a guide higher, all it's going to do is make my outline heavier. The lower I get my guide, the weaker the outline is. You know when you see a layered bob, sometimes that outline's quite wide and thick. That means they got the guide higher up the head. There's less layers, all right? The lower you go, the weaker this can become. So it's up to you. You make that decision. Now you know why and how. So let's bring her down so that I'm not too stretched. 90 degrees, straight out from the head. And I'm going to cut what's known as a convex layer. I'm going to follow the contour of the head shape above the occipital ridge there. So that's my occipital. So I'm going to use that as a guide. So I could actually let a little bit of that drop out for good measure, for safety, and I use that as a guide, and I cut the convex layer. Now what that's created is this corner right here. That corner is my outline. So that's the strength of the outline. So if that corner is higher up, the outline's even heavier. So now that that's done, I'm going to move to my next section. Now, I want it to get heavier towards the front. That's what a layered bob is. It's a triangular layered bob. So again, I have options as to where to pull the hair. If I pull everything into the middle, that will be the steepest drop off of weight. That means she's going to need to speak to the manager. It's really, really, really heavy towards the front, right? If I work to the previous, that's not going to be enough because I'm going to go beyond the natural round of the head. Once I start going beyond the natural round of the head, I could start to lose the density through this front area. So I'm going to go with that happy medium. The nicest flow from back to front, I find, is to pull the hair straight back. Not into the middle, straight back. Now, if I follow the head shape and then pull back, my layers will come up and then drop. There's no fluidity from back to front that way. So that's why I'm choosing to do it this way. I comb the side of the section that I'm about to cut. There's my guide. And I make sure that I elevate the same all the way through, and I look to see that I'm over-directing the hair straight back. See what it's done, when you look at a layered bob smooth, it's beveled. All it is taking that corner off right there. But obviously girls don't wear it like that right now, so that's why I use the mannequin with this texture, because now it pushes further away. Next section, same thing, straight back behind the mannequin. Again, I'm now going to reach the natural round of the head. So if I continue now through the side, if I take individual sections, I'm just going to waste time there. So I'm actually going to condense now, because my guide is at the round of the head. It's now stationary. So let's look at the outline. Let's see if I've maintained my outline while layering. And I have, all the way through. I've not lost the outline. So that's layering while keeping the outline through there. Let's do the same on the other side. I'm not going to switch positions. If I switch positions, it means I'll come from this, working down, and I'll actually cut this shorter than I want it to be. And that's because I'm stood upright. If I was sideways and being held by suspenders, then I could probably cut that how I want it. But I'm not, that's how I am. So I know now that I will stand here because now I can actually create that curvature. And if I work from the bottom up, I'm in more control over it. Same thing on this other side. Now combing the side of the hair that's not been cut and sending it straight back. Feet are parallel to what I'm doing, so I can always be pulling it to the right place. In this case, if I move my right foot, that will change where I direct the hair to. See, now I'm pulling it over here because I'm stood this way. We don't overcompensate. It's not what we do. So I'm going to start to pull it in the wrong place. That's why a lot of haircuts are different on one side than the other, because you don't allow for that thing to happen. So be aware of things like that. Body position. I've reached the natural round of the head, so now I'm into the sides. So I can just condense this and add it to that. Again, more of a hybrid way of cutting hair. So again, let's check, see we got that line. And again, we've kept my outline all the way through while layering it. So I've just beveled the edge of the bob. That's what a layer does when you wear it smooth. But we don't always wear it smooth, so You see the texture? Now it expands, it pushes this way. All right, so now let's move into the front. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to isolate the top. So I'm going to take like a horseshoe section, say that fast 10 times, and isolate the top. So that just gets rid of that. A little bit more actually. So again, I'm using the rounds of the head to do this. That's why it's really difficult to draw head sheets, because it's done on a piece of paper. It's not done on an actual head that's got the curvature in that. But if you want a haircut diagrammed, let me know. I could do that. So that's the top isolated. So I have a horseshoe section basically through the top. And now all I'm going to do is I'm going to join this onto what I've already done. Now, in the interest of time, this is where I would start the layers of the haircut. I wouldn't have sectioned this off. I only did that previous part educational purposes so that you understand that you want to maintain this length through here. So this would be exactly where I would start the layering of the haircut. So all I'm doing is I'm continuing. There's my layer. I'm adding to that. And all I'm doing is I'm moving through into the sides now, and I'm pushing everything straight back. So whatever reaches back that way. The great thing about this haircut is it's a fundamental classic haircut. It's layering while maintaining an outline. It's the third haircut that I ever learned. At Vidal Sassoon, you learn to create the line first, then you learn to graduate it and protect it, and then you learn to layer it and protect it. So it's a very trendy haircut, obviously. It's a layered bob, but it's also a fundamental classic. It's something that everybody should understand. Because once you have an outline and you start layering it, you must protect it. It doesn't want to go shorter. If you go shorter, your client sees that, all right? That's when they lose confidence in you. So again, I'm keeping my outline all the way through. It's protected. So sending everything straight back, whatever reaches. And that's it. And I've kept my outline and the strength of it all the way from back to front, front to back. Now let's do this side. There it is. So continuing that through. The exact same over direction. So if you're not sure of the over direction, put your feet in the right place. Also look over the top so you can see down and you can see where you're pulling that hair to. Key thing, pull it closer to you. It's going to get heavier towards there, front. I've reached the natural round of the head, so now I can start condensing. And there we have it. So let's check the length through here. So you can see I've actually maintained my bob line all the way through. I've not lost that line. So I've layered while maintaining my outline. Okay, so now let's look at balancing a side part in. So I'm going to take the side part in. And let's look at what it looks like if you cut it evenly across the top and you wear this side part in. So I'll work from here. Let's get to the same length. Okay, so my fingers are at the same spot, right? Almost. Now they are. So if I cut this evenly through the top, look what happens. This side sits all the way down here. This side sits all the way up here. That's because this side travels further over the head than this side does. So cutting it even doesn't work if you wear a side parting. If you wear a middle parting, it doesn't mean that you can flip-flop. It's only balanced to that center part. So here's what needs to happen. All right, come on in there and I'll show you. If this is the middle, right there, then that distance is how much longer this side needs to be than that side. Because that's how much further it has to travel. This is the symmetrical middle of the head. That's where the balance comes from. So you can see that this goes way over the middle. So I have to make this side that much shorter. Or I have to make this side that much longer than this side. So that's what we're going to do. How do we do that? What it means is I'm going to use way more over direction on one side than I am the other. So to start the haircut off, I'm going to use maximum over direction and I'm going to do the heavier side. Now when we did the crown area, that's where we stopped right there. So that's going to be my guide for the top. So I'm going to use the crown section as a guide. So I'm going to isolate the underneath that I don't need. And I'm going to take vertical sections through the top, pulling them back onto the crown. So my crown is 90 degrees from the head. That's where we left off. You can see the underneath. And I'm just going to join that onto it. Now, this side of the parting, I want it to be heavier. So I'm going to use maximum over direction now. I'm going to bring all of these sections back into this first one here. So my section size can be larger because it's a stationary guideline. I could pull all of this in one section if I wanted to. But you see all that curvature to the head shape? It's very difficult to organize the hair and make sure it's perfect by doing that. If it was flatter, then I would do. So there's my guide. So I'm literally just placing the roof on top of the underneath. Bringing everything back. Stationary guideline. Coming towards the guide. Last section, all of this being brought back onto the crown. Now, if you're not sure where the crown is at 90, put your mirror here. Turn her around like I have done for you so that you can see exactly where I'm pulling to. So, did I layer while maintaining an outline? Let's have a look. Oops. Still got my bob line all the way through. It's not changed. So now let's do this side. So we'll turn her around. We'll come over here now. So I have to do less over direction on this side than what I did this side. But if you notice, my parting comes to the center back. The reason for that is so that I have an even back area. If I have a parting that's a straight line that comes straight back, then I'm going to have one side that's going to be shorter than the other in the back. That's kind of like a bald man's comb over flapping in the wind. Do you know what I mean? So from center back to the side, I'm going to make it even. So that's why it comes to the center back, so that I can make the first section on either side the same. So my crown is my guide for this side also. And there it is. You see both sides, I connect them together. Boom, that's that done. Now it changes. Now I don't do anything with that. Now I take my next section and I take the previous. I've left the crown section behind. See, now I'm over directing into my previous section. I'm using less over direction. Again, I'm controlling this haircut. See, I look at it like this. I'd rather customize it to the person than it be some kind of generic thing that I then have to do all sorts of weird stuff afterwards to make it look right. So I'm actually working through precision, balancing a parting. I won't point cut the excess weight out afterwards. That would be a quick fix. It'd last a week. So again, ditch that previous guide. Take the next section. Again, less over direction on the parting side. If you cut it evenly, guys, then it looks like newscaster layers. You know when you watch the news and she's telling you the news, her length's here, but the interior is like that. That's because someone's cut it in the middle and told her she can flip-flop it, all right? You have to balance it to where it's going to be worn. So what I've done is I've worked all the way from the crown to the apex. So I've worked uphill. Now the head shape goes downhill. Not only through the top does it change, it curves here, it also curves this way. So if I continue working the same, I might risk losing this length and outline through the front. So I'm actually going to bring everything back to the apex now so that I can maintain a little bit of that weight and density. If it's too much, I can always take more off. So this is a safety thing. But again, this is not my first rodeo, so I know that this is going to work. Back to the apex. Let's see, did I protect my outline? Is there bob still there? Did I face frame the bob? No, I kept it intact. So now, let's check the balance, all right? Judgment time. So let's look at the same spot where I was before. Now let's look at the difference of these layers. So let's lift them up. See the difference in length? That's about the difference from the parting to the center, isn't it? So now when I do that, it's even. So that's how you balance a side parting. Either way you would do it, it would be the exact same thing. So one side's maximum over direction, the other side is less over direction. And now we've got a really nice layered bob. You could do this longer, but keep in mind that a bob is above the shoulders. Once it's here, it's no longer a bob. The shoulders take care of that. They break it up. All right, so it's up to you. You could do this haircut at this length. It would be the same thing. You would use the same places on the head to over direct to and the same key points on the head to layer from. Hope you guys enjoyed that one. Thank you very much.